Was there an accident?
No.
No.
If there was, it wasn't to my knowledge.
Exactly. We have no knowledge of that. There was.
We don't believe anything that comes out of their mouth.
Hold on one
Everything.
second.
Say had.
SD card. Can I have one of yours?
Has, don't say had.
Pause.
Yeah, let's pause.
Okay.
Can't do
I did give a partial admission that she knew where her body was.
I remember what I said to him. The last thing that I said to my son, when my grandpa said he would watch him, I was all for it. I was excited. I can't sleep because it was my idea.
What do you think happened to your grandson?
I don't know what happened to him, for sure, else I would let you know.
What's your guess?
We begin tonight in the bizarre case of a 2-year-old boy who mysteriously vanishes at an Idaho campground.
And not knowing, never being there, I knew I was in trouble.
Even though we searched him that night, you always second guess, did we miss something?
Then you guys thought he was with the parents.
Yeah.
And the parents came back and he was gone.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, I don't want to answer any more questions or anything.
Okay.
Prior to that questioning, detectives had only been referring to Isaac as a family friend that was present at the scene, which led many to make speculations as to why his identity remained a secret.
I just talked to my mom about, okay, is there something that you're worried about with Grandpa specifically, or what? She just said, I just don't know this guy, Isaac, and her reputation wise or anything. So, just what my grandpa said to me about him. He's kind of weird, but he's kind of odd is his exact wording. He's kind of odd, but he's a good guy.
Why did you invite Isaac up to this particular camping trip?
Oh, I don't really know why. He just goes along sometimes, that's what it is.
Isaac was identified with an extensive criminal history in online forums and on social media. However, police and court documents disputed that assertion. The Idaho State Repository showed Isaac was charged with felony rape in 2006, but that charge was amended down to misdemeanor domestic battery. Sheriff's officials told the media that Isaac was not a sex offender because of this. In early August, Frank Vilt, a retired U.S. Marshal with years of investigative experience, was introduced to the case in cooperation with local authorities. On August 11th, Frank gave a short interview with East Idaho News.
The fact that it's a remote campground and the fact that Dior Jr. had cowboy boots on that was too big for him, so he would walk out of them if he tried to run, particularly on rough terrain. And so what alarmed me is that when the search began, the search didn't take that long to begin once he was reported missing. Several people showed up for the initial search, and there was no cowboy boots found. There was no clothing found, and that alarmed me that with the number of people searching and they couldn't find anything, they couldn't find anything that would say that he was there. The search dogs, cadaver dogs, as well as the search dogs, couldn't find anything. They couldn't be on scent and find anything. There were some wolf dens that was searched, bear den was searched, and nothing was found. So this tells me that he probably was not called off by an animal. And he couldn't have gone that far, being 2 years old in that type of terrain. If he wandered off, he probably would have been found. So that alarmed me. Well, that sounds kind of fishy to me. I always like to think outside the box. And so that's why even Sheriff Bowerman said that he probably was not abducted, but maybe a possibility. And so the Sheriff's Department and Lemhi County, as well as Bonneville County, had to do their job. Initially, they suspect the parents. And I knew, knowing Dior personally from my association from before in Montpelier, that I could never imagine him doing anything like that, because he loved his son. That was his son. That was his blood. That was his heart. That was his life. That the parents would not be involved in anything sinister. So you start looking at the other people involved who was at the campground. Look at the grandfather. The grandfather was in ill health, on oxygen. The other gentleman, Isaac, who was there, he was a person of interest. So I think outside the box. So I think there has to be another possibility, and I'd rather think that I feel that he was abducted. Everything points to an abduction. Sometimes there are sinister crimes that occur.
Have the parents been completely cooperative with investigators?
Absolutely. I've talked to Lemhi County deputies, I've talked to Bonneville County here in this jurisdiction, and they've been very cooperative, very forthright, nothing to hide.
Investigator Vilt offered a $10,000 reward for any information leading to Dior's finding.
You hope to find him.
Jessica and Vernal agree to sit down for an interview with Jessica's mother, Trina Bates Clegg, and her father, Jerry Mitchell.
He's my grandson and stuff. I love him to death, and I would do whatever it takes to get him back.
We just beg everybody to please keep your eyes open and look around, listen, because we know that there's answers.
I hope that he's okay, and in my mind, that's what keeps me going, that he's okay, and if he's with somebody and it is an abduction, that's what I hope for, because if he's up there, closure is fine, but it's not my little boy for me to raise, for me to take by the hand and show him what dads do with their sons, to show him the things and teach him like I've looked so forward to doing with him.
Less than a week later, a boy was found in California at a motel. The story went viral as the boy found looked very similar to Dior. After 2 days, his supposed mother claimed the boy from authorities, leaving some concern considering how similar the boy looked to missing Dior and how little information was released after the boy was claimed. In mid-October, investigator Frank Vilt withdrew from the case. Frank stated the reason he was withdrawing was because he believed that Vernal and Jessica weren't being completely truthful.
I am withdrawing from the investigation. My stipulation was both of you would be absolute truthful. In my professional opinion, both of you lied and misrepresented the true facts that could possibly solve the mystery of your missing son. Sooner or later, the truth will come out. When a mother has lost her child, she looks into a camera and says, I want my child. Please help me find my child. I love my child. But she didn't want to do that. Jessica giving up custody of the other 2 kids from her former marriage, and I believe the mother made an arrangement to give her child up for adoption.
Frank cited that both Jessica and Vernal's events were contradictory and had changed multiple times. Frank also revealed that both parents failed multiple polygraph tests.
I started finding little things that they were inconsistent, their stories didn't jive. One was the timeline. They just were hiding things, like they weren't coming forth with the truth. They didn't make line. The timeline didn't make sense.
On October 23rd, several family members were interviewed at another search at the campground.
Something's been overlooked. Whatever hasn't been found is what we plan on finding. Is what we're going to find. We've got to. We're running out of time. The weather's not agreeing with us on a lot of this.
Which is what we're doing right now.
There's too much ground to cover to 100% say that everything has been checked and double checked and triple checked. Everything that's been, like picked up and moved, and anything that he could have got under or, lost his boot or anything like that, to show us a sign of where he was or which way he went or what happened. There's too much ground to cover to say that we've covered everything. So we're kind of doing that now and trying to get that done before the snow comes.
And so far, where nothing's been found, I want to go back through over everything again. And anything that in my mind I don't think has been checked off, even though the search and rescue and all that has done an amazing job, the truth of it is nothing's been found yet. So
you have to start back at
you have to start square one. And I agree with Sheriff Bowerman. I agree with the officials that whatever that may be, whatever that may take, we're going to do it from square one again.
On November 23rd, another private investigator, Philip Klein, was hired on the case. Klein, the lead investigator, said payment for the man-hours spent investigating came out of a fund set up by his company for circumstances such as this, where the family would not be able to afford the cost. The Goons family, however, related to media that Klein was hired for $20,000, but didn't state if that money was fundraised or paid directly to Klein. Philip Klein said Dior's family had been cooperative, but added that Isaac Renwad, a friend who joined the July camping trip, would not make a statement to his investigators.
We have interviewed the father. We have interviewed the mother. We have interviewed the grandfather. We have not interviewed Isaac Renoir. He has hired a counsel, which is his right to do. He has hired counsel. We have extended an arm in friendship to the counsel and saying, let's bring him in a room. You can sit there and you can tell him to answer or not to answer, but let's hear his story. Let's hear his story. And we have not heard his story yet. We need to hear his story. And so far we've been blocked from doing that. In fact, we have not even received a return phone call from his counsel.
Despite an abundance of theories and intensive national media and social media interest, the whereabouts of Dior remained unknown 6 months after his disappearance. On January 15th, just a week after Dior's third birthday, Philip Klein made a statement regarding the incident. The team claimed that Dior, beyond a reasonable doubt, was not attacked by an animal or abducted by a force, citing no concrete evidence to support these theories. Klein also stated that they had not ruled out death by accident or intent. In that statement, the firm claimed that they had poured over 1,000 documents, conducted over 80 interviews, and over 500 man-hours of investigation in the case. On January 25th, the Lemhi County Sheriff's Department named Jessica and Vernal suspects in the disappearance of Dior.
With new details tonight on the case of a missing toddler in eastern Idaho. The Lemhi County Sheriff's Office now says the parents of Dior Coons Jr. are the prime suspects in his disappearance.
The sheriff stated that the parents of Dior Coons Jr. have been less than truthful during polygraph tests and interviews with investigators, claiming both parents told multiple stories the day of the disappearance.
Let's go back to Monday. You announced that Dior and Jessica are suspects.
Basically, I was saying they were the top persons of interest, but, actually, yeah, I believe they're suspects. After a extensive week of interviewing, re-interviewing, and an announcement from the FBI that they were being less than truthful on their polygraphs, and a lot of irregularities and discrepancies in their interviews.
Sheriff Bowerman also said portions of polygraph tests administered to Vernal and Jessica came back inconclusive, including questions about knowing what happened to Dior, why the child disappeared, and where the toddler is located. Bowerman also stated that the polygraphs administered to Isaac and Robert were also inconclusive, but those results were expected because of both of their mental states. That day that the parents were named suspects, Isaac agreed to interview with the East Idaho News.
So we're hearing from you for the first time. Is there a reason you've wanted to be quiet?
It was mostly just because of how the social media was reacting, and my attorney, my lawyer, always said it might be better not to say anything until they know exactly what's going on in the case.
Were you surprised that the parents were named as suspects?
Yeah, actually I kind of was, a little bit.
Why is that?
It's just, just because of all the theories and everything that's been going around, it doesn't feel like or seem like anybody knows what's going on.
Well, a lot of people thought that you were involved.
Yeah, that I am aware of.
What would you say to those people that think you somehow had something to do with his disappearance?
I'd say just, a lot of people, they don't know me, so the unknown is scary, so what they don't know, people are afraid of. So I just have to say, just because a person looks some way, you shouldn't judge them just because of how they look.
One of the commonalities of someone being truthful is the ability to view the scenario subjectively in a manner that isn't defensive. This is because someone being truthful can understand how things may look to others without the need to defend themselves by attacking the people that might think they're guilty. A truthful subject will always know that they can eventually prove the people that think they are guilty wrong, so they avoid insulting others' perceptions and instead focus on asserting the truth.
Do you have any idea where Dior could be?
I do not.
I guess you're hoping he's found?
Yes, I am.
On January 28th, Vernal and Jessica hired Alan Browning to represent them after they learned they were being considered as suspects.
Here's what I would have to say about that. The sheriff said a number of things. He said that he thought there was some kind of a conspiracy between those four people which is absolutely bizarre. Here's what I'll tell you. There were 3 adults up there that were family members. There was Jessica and her grandfather, and there was Dior's father, Dior Sr. And there's also this fellow, Isaac, who is bipolar, and he's got a significant criminal history. There are 3 people with a family connection, 1 person without. My clients didn't even know this guy, Isaac, until they got up to the campground. I'll tell you that the child was there at the campground. Isaac appears to be the last person to see that child alive.
Just a few days later, Philip Klein shockingly admitted that Jessica told him she knew where her son's body was.
First things first, obviously yesterday you released another big thing saying that Jessica Mitchell had an idea of where Dior's body is, and could you just talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. We can start by talking a little bit about Jessica Mitchell. Jessica Mitchell, in her interview with us, and also we can announce today with law enforcement, did give a partial admission that she knew where her body was up in the mountains. We have tried to work with Jessica as we've tried to work with Vernal. They have both told so many different stories. I think they're confused now on the stories they've told. Starting with Vernal. Vernal has taken 5 polygraph tests on behalf of the FBI, county operators and state operators. He's failed all 5, and I'm not just talking about a spike in a polygraph test. I'm talking about a wave, which shows deception, deep deception. Equally, he has failed some simple contact questions, such as, "Are you here to tell us the truth today?" And he's failed it not only he's not only failed it, but he's failed it to the 99.9 percentile. So that's a very big concern with us. Secondary, let's go back to Jessica Mitchell. Jessica's given 5 interviews, and I will tell you that Jessica's 5 interviews have been at best, I would say, inconclusive, if not outright silliness, lies, missteps, misdirection plays, that sort of thing, with not only us, but with law enforcement. She has taken 4 polygraph tests, again with the state, federal, local, and she has failed all of those. And not only has she failed them, she too has failed them in the 99th percentile. When confronted with that, Jessica began to tell a story, then she stopped telling the story to law enforcement. She did the same thing with us, quite frankly. I think at this point, the investigators on the PSB side, which is our side, we've completely given up on anything that comes out of Vernal or Jessica's mouth. We don't believe anything that comes out of their mouth, and so that has been a concern.
In the statement, Klein states that the official conclusion by the civil investigation team was death by homicide or accident. Klein stated that both Vernal and Jessica's stories had multiple inconsistencies, even including minor details such as where Dior's blanket and sippy cup was when they realized Dior was missing. Attorney Alan Browning issued a statement that Tuesday evening in reference to Klein's interview.
Jessica admitted she knew where the body was, but she wouldn't finish the story.
Alan Browning, who's representing both Jessica and Vernal, says he's spoken to his clients a number of times about what happened that day.
The story has not changed at all, not a bit.
Browning added that Klein's making these accusations for self-promotion.
Those statements are outrageous. They really are. And it's time just to end the relationship between Mr. Kuntz and Mr. Klein. He's done enough damage already. He doesn't need to do any more damage.
Browning says both Jessica and Vernal are still holding out hope that their son is still alive.
When Phil Klein, instead of trying to find the child, goes out making a statement like that, he discourages people from, keeping their eyes open, and, maybe it'll turn out that the child was kidnapped.
The following day, Klein was rehired by an anonymous client. Both parents later that week interviewed with local news.
For me, it's hard to even leave my house to go to get gas or, to the grocery store. People just coming up to us in general in the public, telling us that They know that we're gonna go to hell for what we did to our son, and how could we?
If you're so damn positive, we'd like to talk to you, and so does the law enforcement and FBI then, if you're so positive. People have pretty much laid my son to rest already. It's so much easier just to blame parents.
Philip Klein claims that you confessed to knowing where baby Dior is, and that you won't go any further than that. Is that true?
Absolutely not. No.
So I have to ask you, did you murder your son?
Absolutely not.
No.
Was there an accident?
No.
No.
If there was, it wasn't of my knowledge.
Exactly.
Do
We
you
have no
have-
knowledge of that. There was.
You're saying you have nothing to do with his disappearance?
No.
No.
He was left with a trusted adult, and when I come back, my son was gone. And thanks to the politics of this, in your mind, you've already put this, you've put it behind you. It's closed in your mind. He's not home. We have no more answers than we did July 10th.
Somebody has him. I want them to know that we're not going to give up, and we'll find him. And it doesn't matter what you do to his appearance, we will find him.
Till the day I die, till the day we die, I will find him. I refuse to leave this earth not knowing where he is and what happened, at least knowing that he's okay.
On June 15th, an 8-second video was posted on Facebook by Klein Investigations regarding the March interview before Klein was fired.
Hold on one second.
Say had.
SD card, can I have one of yours?
Has, don't say had.
Yeah, let's pause.
Can't do that.
Some comments claimed this was very concerning behavior considering Vernal seemed to be coaching Jessica on the correct tense of had and has. Others argued that Vernal said this to Jessica so she can avoid using incorrect tenses to not draw more public scrutiny. Over the months of June and July 2016, Klein Investigations released several more video interviews regarding the case.
Why would you and your husband leave that little boy up there with a guy that's an officer? Just because you've done it before?
Because he was tired, and I knew that he wanted to hang out with Grandpa.
We all probably got a different story. So I don't know what happened. That's all there is to it.
Did they ask you to watch Little Dior?
That's what I hear.
Okay, that's what you hear?
That's what I hear.
That's what you hear from them say?
That's what I hear. I didn't know whether I heard it, they said that.
Okay.
I don't remember that, but I was watching him anyway, you know. They took it out.
What do you think happened to your grandson?
I don't know what happened to him, for sure, else I would let you know.
What's your guess?
What does your gut tell you?
Huh?
We all have a gut. What does your gut tell you?
I don't really know.
I don't remember what I said to him. The last thing that I said to my son, when my grandpa said he would watch him, I was all for it. I was excited. And that kills me because it was my idea. Like, oh, yeah, I want to go fishing. Like,
Jessica's not known to keep a job long. And the fact that she'd had this one for 6 months was because of Bob, and she enjoyed taking care of him. Do I think Jessica did anything? No, because she was there with me. I believe Bob knows more than what he's telling. It is my fault for allowing Bob to watch my child, but I will never forgive Bob for letting my son get out of his sight. I will never forgive him.
Do you trust Jessica 100%?
When it comes to my son, I did. When it comes to any life decision, no. The only thing that I ever thought was maybe she knew something about Bob and was worried about Bob spending what life he's got left in prison, and that was eating at her.
That summer, Jessica and Vernal's apartment was searched. Both of them had been evicted due to rent non-payment and allegedly left behind a number of personal items. Investigators were able to search the unit, where they found the camo hoodie that Dior was described as wearing the day at the campground. Around this time, investigators learned that Jessica and Vernal had split up and moved only a few months prior. Investigators also learned that Jessica got re-engaged to another man while Vernal moved to Las Vegas. Both Jessica and Vernal were still being represented at the time by attorney Alan Browning. On July 6th, Alan appeared on HLN to answer questions.
I want to ask you about representing both parents in this. You and I are both attorneys. We know that sometimes we have conflicts, especially if two people are suspects in a murder. These two people used to be married. Now they're divorced. She got remarried very quickly. Do you think you have a conflict in representing both of them going forward?
First, let me correct you. These people were not married. These people were engaged.
Okay.
Jessica had been married several years ago to another man, has 2 children by that man, but she was not married to Dior.
But is it possible that one of them wants to accuse the other, but they can't because you're representing both of them?
Well, the reason I'm representing both of them is both of them have weighed the potential conflict, and both of them have told me that they were together when their child went missing.
Just a week later, Isaac spoke to media in his first sit-down interview.
What was baby Dior like that morning? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think he was playing and trying to throw stuff in the fire, and his dad got after him for that, just like a normal 2-year-old.
Isaac points out that Dior was playing near the fire, which caused Vernal to get after him. This seems to be a moment of significance that even Isaac remembered, yet Vernal and Jessica never spoke about this in released media.
When did you get up for the day? Was it in the afternoon?
Probably about noon or so.
What was going on then?
When I woke up, they were Jessica and Dior and his dad were all heading. They're gonna head up to the store to see if they could get some gas because they were low on gasoline.
Was the gas station not open when they came through? Or
Yeah.
did they need it for like a generator or something?
I think they needed fuel. For some reason, they needed fuel. I can't remember why. But on the way up, yeah, it wasn't open. By the time we got to the store, it wasn't open.
So they left the campground to go get gas. And who went? Who all went?
Dior went, his mom, and
You mean baby Dior
yeah,
and his mom
baby
Jessica?
Dior, and his dad.
Okay.
Bob took me around to try to show me a few fishing holes up around the reservoir in that area.
And you saw Dior when they went to the store, baby Dior. He was fine. He was just being a kid still.
Yeah, and they all packed up and went to the store.
Okay. And then were you at the campground when they came back?
Yeah,
And baby Dior was still with them when they came back?
that is correct.
Okay. So then what happened? What were you guys doing then? Do you remember?
We kind of just, sat around, chatted for a little bit, hung out, and then Bob told me to go show him where we got all the fishing gear ready, and Bob told me to show them where the fishing hole is. I walked upstream towards the fishing hole where we were catching them. Me and Bob were fishing before, and I showed him where it was and everything.
Do you know how far away from the campground you guys were?
Maybe, I don't know, about 300-400 feet or something. Not very far.
Okay.
I seen when we went to I saw, I thought everybody was with us. I thought I was ahead of it, and Dior Sr. was behind me, and so was Dior. As far as I know, I thought baby Dior was still behind us, and I was showing Jessica. Like I went down there and showed Jessica where the fishing hole is, and I assumed that, Dior and his dad were right behind me.
Okay.
Or just behind us. It was taking them a little bit to catch up.
In Isaac's events, he claims that he went down to the creek to show Jessica while assuming that Dior and his father were following. This could mean that Isaac never actually saw Vernal and Dior coming down to the creek, but instead assumed they were following Jessica.
And at what point did you and Dior Sr. and Jessica split up? They went somewhere else and you went somewhere, you said earlier, right? You came down the creek closer to the campground and left them up there?
Yeah.
And so
I did. I don't know, it was like 5-10 minutes. I showed him, I think it must have been 5-10 minutes.
Okay.
After I did that, I walked towards camp, and I went to another fishing hole to fish. And I was down there fishing for a while, and that's when I noticed Bob was up there on the ridge pacing back and forth. So I asked him what was going on, and he said little Dior is missing. And I was like, what? So
you said you noticed Bob pacing.
Kinda.
What did he look like to you? Was he stressed?
He looked like he was kind of stressed or worried about something, so.
So was Jessica and Dior, Jessica's boyfriend or fiance at the time, were they at the campsite when Bob told you Dior was missing? When he was pacing on the bank and you walked up, were they at the campsite?
When I went down there to talk, when I went up there to talk to Bob, no, they were already out looking for him.
So you didn't see him. They were
Right.
They were out. So you and Bob searched the immediate area.
Me and Bob searched the immediate area right there for a little bit. His mom came from, I don't know, she was out in the sagebrush looking, and she came back to camp, and I talked to her a little bit, and I said, what's going on there? Like, he's missing.
Did she seem upset?
Yeah, she seemed pretty upset. I couldn't really look at you in the face or anything. She hadn't been able to do that for I don't know for what reason.
Isaac states that Jessica wasn't able to look them in the eye. This behavior reflects shame or guilt, which contradicts behaviors that a concerned mother looking for her child would exhibit. A concerned mother would likely maintain direct eye contact, as suspicion would draw her to think of every possibility, including if anyone around her took her child.
Jessica's fiance, do you know where he went? Was he in the truck, or was he on foot?
He was on foot for a while, and then he was also in the truck. He got in the truck too to go down by the cattle guard to go look for him down there too.
Was he angry? Did he get aggressive with Bob? Did he say, like, you know, he was here last? Like, was there frustration?
I think there was a little bit, but he didn't seem to get too angry at Bob, so.
So Dior, did he ever appear frustrated or anything? Did he tell Bob at the time I left him here with you? Did he ever say anything like that?
Not that I remember, no.
You mentioned about the boots he was wearing, that they were too big for him. Is that your same opinion?
Yeah, they were kind of big on him, and he was kind of clumping around, you know.
And that was your observation,
yeah,
not
right.
what they told you.
Right, and he had kind of a hard time walking anyway, because he's only like 2.
Your last impression, the last time you saw baby Dior, what was your impression of him? That you can remember the last time seeing him?
That he was, you know, having fun. Just like I said, he was just like a normal Dior, having fun, doing his thing, looking at different, exploring, looking at different things, you know.
Can you say 100% for sure baby Dior was up there?
Yes, I can tell you that much, that he was up there.
Did you ever feel accused by them? Did they ever confront you?
I don't know for say how I just kind of felt that way, you know, just the way.
Okay. You had that impression that maybe
I felt like I had that impression, yes, that I was being scapegoated, or, you know, maybe partially accused, you know.
You don't have anything to hide then?
No.
And you cooperated with law enforcement that night when they spoke to you?
Yes, I did.
You told them everything?
Yeah, I told them about everything that was going on.
You heard that Jessica got remarried?
That's what I heard. I thought that was kind of weird. She just got out of a relationship not even, 6 months ago? I don't know. And gets remarried. That's weird. I mean, who does that?
That November, People magazine published an article regarding the disappearance. This would bring more national attention for the following months. On January 3, 2019, Vernal's father, Dennis Coons Sr., died aged 73 in his home in Montpelier, Idaho. Dennis was involved with his son Vernal in the ongoing lawsuit against Philip Klein, when on February 7th, Judge Bruce Pickett dismissed the Coons lawsuit against Philip Klein. Klein investigations claimed they spent $108,000 defending themselves, which they allege they are entitled to regain through Dennis Sr.'s estate, as well as through Vernal Coons and Jessica Mitchell. In June, Jessica's grandfather, Robert Walton, passed away from cancer at the age of 80. Robert was not considered a suspect, and according to Jessica's mother, he regretted taking his eyes off his grandson that day. That summer, private investigator David Marshburn joined the search for Dior.
Developing story out of Eastern Oregon, a possible development in the case of a little Idaho boy who went missing nearly 4 years ago. Lemhi County officials have closed the campground where 2-year-old Dior Coons Jr. disappeared, for what the sheriff says is part of an annual search for the area. The Timber Creek portion of Lemhi County will be closed until July 1st. Out-of-state private investigator David Marshburn works with the Search for Me Foundation. He claims his cadaver dogs hit on something earlier this month.
I was giving my dogs a break, or one of them, and he didn't take the break. He went to the water and then all of a sudden dashed. They're cadaver dogs. They're there to detect human remains, and that's what they did. Now, whether it's a little thing, big thing, I don't know.
The sheriff's office says the campground closure is a result of investigators practicing due diligence in the investigation. Searchers scour the campground yearly, but despite numerous searches, no trace of Coons has been found. Dior was last seen on July 10th, 2015. He was camping with his parents, grandfather, and a family friend. The parents of the toddler are suspects in the disappearance, although a body has not been recovered and no charges have been filed.